Hello there, I'm John Davis. I work for SolaSense, and what I've got here for you today is a quick tutorial on the use of hotDAS, which is our DAS processing and visualization software. So what I'm going to do is pull up the software and give you a quick run through, and then just a brief summary at the end here. So let's go ahead and pull up hotDAS. And let's get rid of my picture out of that so we can see what's going on here a little more easily. So first thing you notice is there's 4 tabs across the top of the user interface here, and I've got the second one selected, process and display. I'll talk a bit more about the other 3 tabs in a moment. But essentially this is the tab you're most likely to be using. It has all the variables there that you can play with in the 2-part process that this program is. And the first part of the process is to process the data, to pick up the raw DAS information, run it through fast Fourier transforms and generate an intermediate output file. And then the display part of it picks up that intermediate file, runs some more algorithms on the data, and outputs the image files that are then used to understand what's going on in your well. Okay, so you can see the first thing here is that you input the frequency bands, and we're showing 7 here. So 0 to 50, 50 to 100, so on and so forth, and you can just edit these up as you want to, change that to 4000 or whatever you want, whatever arrangement you like. So that's the process part. The display part, there's a bit more control over it, so this is where the clever bit comes in of these feature extraction parameters. So essentially these tease out or amplify any events or features in the data that may occur over time, and that's the temporal setting you see here, or over space or length along the fiber, and those are the spatial parameters here. And the settings we have there at the moment, and again you can have as many as you like or none at all. You can process without these if you wish, but essentially for every permutation and combination of frequency band and temporal and spatial feature extraction parameter, you will generate an image of the data. And we know that the frequency bands will bring out different information from the data, but what we've also seen are these feature extraction parameters bring out different information from the data. So by playing with these 3 variables, you can generate a whole matrix of images of that same initial DAS data set. Okay, and we'll see some of that in a moment. You then have some options to play about with the size and resolution of the image, and you have some options to play about with the type of color map that you're used to looking at, and the jet setting seems to be the favorite. Some options here of putting X and Y values on the charts, and there's reasons you may not want to do that, and one is that you may want to import these images into our quick view product, where you have it has its own time and depth axes already there. But if you wanted to use the images separately for something else directly from the DAS data, then you have the option of putting those axes on there. There's a depth offset here, so that's if you've still got some kilometers of fiber optic cable on your wireline winch drum and you want to take that off right at the outset. There's an option here to do that. So essentially that's it. That's all you put in there, and then basically you go and pick up your DAS file. I've got just a very small one, because they tend to be very large, of course. A very small one on my laptop here. So let me dig that out. I think it's in here, raw demo file. Here we go. So here's a file. Yeah, it's pretty small for a DAS file. It's 1.8 gigabytes. But I'll just pick that up for the purpose of this demo. There we go. So that's it picked up as the input. and then I need to choose the folder that I want to put the intermediate file and the image files that are generated from that intermediate file. So I'll just find somewhere on my desktop. I think I've got somewhere called hotDAS demo. That's blank at the moment, so let me select that as the folder. There we go. And it's hidden a bit off the screen here at the moment. So let me bring it in here. There we go. There's one button was hidden there. So then it's just a matter of process and generate. I click on that, and off we go. Here's the hotDAS progress bar. It's going through the FFTs at the moment pretty rapidly, as you see. I think it's about 20 seconds to get through 1.8 gigabytes. In fact, what I've found is for typical setup of frequency bands and temporal and spatial settings, it's about 5 gigabytes per minute to do the whole lot. And here's the second part now, that it's generating the image files. So that's it, done basically. So if I go back to my hotDAS demo file, you'll now see there's some files in there. There was a slide in there you couldn't see previously because it's not of the right file format. This is the intermediate file here. Okay, but what I'm interested in are the images. So if I take a look in here, here you'll see all the images generated for each one of the frequency bands and for each combination of the spatial and temporal parameter settings, and that's what the zeros and ones are. So here, for example, you can see this is 0 to 50 Hertz, that's 0 to 50, all these across the top are 0 to 50 Hertz, as are these three here. So that's 9 images, all at the same frequency setting, but you can see how they vary, and that's because you've got these different settings on the temporal and spatial parameters, 0 and 1 here, so 0 for spatial, 1 for temporal, and so on and so forth, 0, 2, 0, 3, 1, 1, 1, so every combination. And then you jump to the next frequency band, the 50 to 100 Hertz, and off you go, the same thing there. So you've got a whole array of these here, and you know, you can pick any one of these you like and use them directly. You'll also see in this folder an index file. That's essentially a data file that describes all these images, and that's again used in our other product, QuickView, to help link these images into the QuickView, and that's a separate tutorial on that. You've also got an HTML file here that I'll open up, which might be too big for the screen, but you can see the gist of it there, that includes the images as an HTML file that you can scan through and take a look as well. Okay, so that's it essentially. It's as simple as that. Now, I did say I'd talk a little bit about these other tabs here, and the first one here is the process only. So that's where you might want to just generate the intermediate data file. It allows you to do that, just to put in the frequency bands and generate that intermediate file. And then you have display only, where you're picking up an already existing intermediate data file and running off different sets of images. And the reason you might want to do that is that you will find it's the FFT processing, the first part of the process, that takes the time. So this process only option is the one that takes the time to generate that intermediate file when you're dealing with, you know, normal sized DAS files, which can be up to 1 terabyte or more. So if you already have that existing, then the generation of the images is very much more rapid. So you may want to pick up that intermediate file and generate a whole load of images with different settings of these spatial and temporal feature extraction parameters. And then the fourth tab, the first one that I haven't covered yet, this is really the simplest option of all. And if you've got a user out in the field who's not familiar with these parameters, then you can set up defaults. There are defaults already set in the program. They're variable, and then you can basically point them to where the raw DAS data is and point them towards where you want the output files to be placed, and then it's just hit process and generate, and it'll do exactly the same I did just now, only with a default load of settings there. So that's about where we are with hotDAS. So thank you very much for listening, and if you have any queries on the product at all, please do get in touch. You'll see our email address on the website. Thank you very much.